Hey, what's going on social media? I'm Steve Ludwig, also known as Mr. Insurance. What I wanted to talk to you guys about today is the difference between an SR22 and an FR44 in specifically the state of Florida. Now, FR44s happen to be more specific for two different states, one being Virginia, and then the one that I'm actually talking about here today is FR44s in Florida. So I just want to make sure that we're pretty clear on that. Now, what you might ask yourself, well, what's the difference between the two of them? Okay, so in the state of Florida, the SR22 is going to be more of a lower coverage, state minimum insurance coverage, if you will. Okay, so the SR stands for statement of responsibility, where FR stands for financial responsibility. Why does that matter? Well, somebody that generally has been more of a habitual offender or somebody that has more problems is going to require the FR44 as opposed to somebody that only needs an SR22. But I will say in the state of Florida, they have defaulted more to going toward that FR44, and again, I'll explain to you why. So the SR22, the coverages that are required are 10, 20, 10. That's bodily injury and property damage. The bodily injury and property damage is a part of the state minimum insurance for the state of Florida. Now, if you need a FR44, first thing to mention is that you have to carry much higher limits of liability, which is 100, 350, as opposed to, again, the state minimum of 10, 20, 10. Again, that's bodily injury, property damage. The other thing is that the FR44 has to be paid 6 months in advance. Well, you might ask yourself, well, why? Again, I'm going to refer back to, the habitual offender. It's been proven in multiple occasions that generally that person that requires that FR44 has demonstrated that they are not going to carry that insurance. The other thing here is that no matter whether you pay 1 month or you pay 6 months, the insurance company is responsible in accordance to the Florida state laws to be able to cover you that entire time period. So it's very important that you understand that people are not able to bend from this. As far as payments and things like that you might see out online, these are things that are just sellers' tactics to be able to try and get you in, but ultimately you do have to pay 6 months in advance, and that's just how FR44s work. Now, the next question that a lot of people ask me is, well, what if I move out of state? That doesn't make any difference. You still have to carry it in the state of Florida. You still have to carry those particular limits, and then whatever new state that you go to, that should be able to transfer from holding that insurance from the state of Florida. So you still continue to carry that. Another thing that will help you is to work with an agent that is licensed in multiple states. Now, I'm licensed in multiple states, my companies are licensed in multiple states, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to get that from us. Just in general, you want to make sure that that person is licensed in those multiple states and so fluent with the different laws and regulations, so that they can make sure that there's going to be no lapses during those time periods. So mentioning lapses, we want to also be sure to talk to you about if you lapse in that coverage, that the clock resets. So it's not something you want to lapse in. Generally, the time period you have to carry it is 3 years for the FR44. That's pretty standard. On the SR22, it can be sometimes as much as 2 years, but most of them are usually 3 years or longer. And like I said, the state of Florida is kind of really defaulted more to the FR44. The other thing is that you want to make sure that you make sure to get the right case number in there, right? So each of the SR22s or FR44s come with a case number. Those generally start, depending on if it's an SR22, that number starts with a 2, or if you have an FR44 that starts with a 4. That's going to kind of line things up in the system. Again, that's where the experience is really going to count. Myself or one of my companies is able to handle that. We have the newest, latest, and greatest systems to be able to make sure that those filings are done instantly. You want to make sure that it's electronically filed so that there's no delay. The worst thing you can have happen is you get pulled over, discover you don't have coverage when you've paid for coverage. It's just not a situation you want to find yourself in. But If you have any questions or comments, please leave those comments down below. I'll try and answer questions as best as I possibly can to respond back to you in a timely fashion. But outside of that, I hope every one of you guys has a great day, and we'll see you out on the road.